my presentation by a simple question. Do you have an idea about the date today?
The date?
I think it's obvious. It's the 14th of January. In fact, this date is personally is very important for me. It's the start of the Tunisian revolution. So why do I start by this, by my presentation by such event? It's not only because I'm Tunisian, but also it was the starting point of my work, this work. So if we, in fact, I have, let's listen to this recording. I think it doesn't work, but in fact it was set. So it was said in English, work, freedom and dignity. Simply such slogans translate an ethical demand for a community, not only for OIC countries such as Egypt, Libya and other countries, but also for other countries. We've heard such slogans even in Europe and Wall Street, even in Arabic also. So my presentation will not be a political one, but I try to find an economic and social solution for such demands, such worldwide ethical demand. So the purpose of this presentation is finding an economic solution, as we can see, the presentation is entitled Sharia-based ethical performance measurement framework. So the main points that I will be talking about are ethics, Islam, Sharia, performance and performance measurement. So we not talk a lot, even we not talk about sukuk and other financial engineering, Islamic financial engineering. Let's start by some definitions. Ethics may be defined as the set of moral principles that distinguish what is right from what is wrong. And Islam places Islam emphasizes. I'd like to emphasize that Islam put importance to ethical and to such ethical values in all aspects of a human life. And we can witness we can have many arguments from Quran and even from Sunnah, the tradition of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as we can see here, I said in English and Arabic, you are the best nation that has been raised up for mankind. You enjoy right conduct, forbid evil and believe in Allah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. And from the Prophet tradition, the Sunnah, the Prophet said, I've been sent for the purpose of perfecting good morals. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. So in Quran, we found that the term ethics is, in Arabic, is khuluq. And there are many good concepts that we find in Quran. We can find goodness, khayr, righteousness, qist, equity, adl, justice, and taqwa, piety. I will not talk about a lot about this point. I want just to mention that Dr. Rafiq Isa Bekun from University of Nevada have done many works on such a subject, the Islamic business ethics and the strategic planning in Islam and management and leadership in Islam. In many references, we find that Sharia, the Islamic law, is divided into three main parts. We find aqidah, beliefs, we find ibadat, worships, and akhlaq, ethics. So as we can see, ethics is a central part of Islamic law, of Sharia. We've talked about Sharia now. I will mention maqasid Sharia. مقاصد الشريعة is always translated as the goals and objectives of the Islamic law. الإمام الغزالي classified مقاصد الشريعة into 5 major categories. He started by faith, الدين. The second one is safeguarding human self, نفس. The third, intellect, عقل. And the fourth, posterity. And the fifth one, wealth. Al-Razi, 1 century after Imam al-Ghazali, he put the first place to human self, the nafs. So as we can see, maqasid sharia, the purpose of maqasid sharia is to spread the ethical values and compassion and guidance in order to establish justice and eliminate prejudice, poverty, and to have many ethical values. Now I will start my presenting my this framework. The framework will be, in fact, we'll have strategic objectives of a corporate. So we'll take a corporate, for example, as mentioned, we can have a country also, but I will explain it for a corporate. So if we have strategic objectives of a corporate that correspond to maqasid sharia, to objectives of sharia, so we'll have financial objectives, which is the safeguarding of wealth, and we'll have extra financial objectives, which are the 4 others. And at this stage there are the 4 others. So the objective of safeguarding human self, safeguarding faith, safeguarding intellect, and safeguarding enrichment of posterity. So we'll have 5 main strategic objectives of a corporate. In this presentation, I will, for maqasid sharia, I will have 2 models. The first one is Omar Shapra model. It is in the Islamic vision, in his book, the Islamic vision of development in the light of maqasid sharia. It was written in 2008, and this model, there is we explain the order and the interdependence of each objective. The second model is from Abd al-Majid al-Najjar model. The book is in Arabic, مقاصد الشريعة بأبعاد جديدة. I've heard that there is a French version of this book, but I didn't find it. But I think it's les finalités de la voie islamique avec les 2 nouvelles perspectives. He categorized maqasid al-sharia in 4 main objectives. The first one is human self, safeguard the value of a human self, and we'll have faith and human rights. Then we'll have safeguard of human self. We'll have self and mind, and so we'll have 4 main objectives and 8 subcategories. Now after defining our objectives, the corporate objectives, we should measure this. In fact, we should measure these objectives. So we should have a performance that correspond to each strategic objective, strategic maqasid sharia objective. So we'll have the performance of the first one. The first, I want to mention that I start working with the model 1, so Omar Shapra. So the order of this, so I will work with this order. So the performance for faith, it will be P1. For human self, it will be P2. Intellect, it will be P3. Posterity, P4, and wealth, P5. The the graph is not really clear, but I explain it. In fact, the first method, which is the main one, is graphical method. So we will have for each performance an axis, for each objective an axis. So we will have in the plan like a spider graph with 5 axes, and for each axis we have one objective. And for each objective we'll have one performance. Here, for example, I've done a scoring method from 0 to 5. So we score the performance from 0 to 5, and we'll put on each axis the performance. So, for example, for nafs, yeah, here it's not clear in the graph also. But if we have, for example, 2p1 it equal to 2, so it's not clear. So I will be back to the other graph. So we will. To summarize, we will have to each, we'll put a performance on each axis that correspond to the performance of the strategic objective, the strategic Sharia objective. As we can see here, we have, for example, 2 ears, and for each ear we have a graphical area that correspond to the performance of the 5 maqasid, the 5 Sharia objective. And for each graph correspond to 1 year. The blue one is for 2012 and the red one 2010. Even this graph is not clear. But if we think about the trend of the industry, if we want to represent the trend of the industry today by using this graph, this method graph, we'll have this. We'll have such a graph. I mean, we'll put the stress. Actually, the industry put the stress on the wealth. The financial results more than the human selves, faith, and intellect and posterity. We may find ethical investments such as CSR, ISR, and business ethics investment, but the trend is really it's more on the wealth and the financial results. But I want to highlight that Islam is the religion of the middle way, and I will say it in Arabic. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. صدق الله العظيم. So it's the Islam is the religion of middle way. So we'd like to equilibrate and have a middle way of these performances. So the balanced graphical performance will be as such. So we have, for example, almost the same performance for each objective. So for statistical result, we'll have a standard deviation around equal to 0. So that correspond to balance and equality between the 5 performances. And of course, the optimized performance is the maximum one with equilibrating, so the maximum performance for each objective. So we finished with the graphical method, but it's very important since we'll use it for the other numerical method. The numerical method, I will use in fact, it's a way to benchmark performances between years and even between to benchmark corporates based on this based on these graphs. So as I've seen, I've thought that we have many areas, the surface areas. So the blue one and the red one. So I defined a global performance. I call it global performance 5, which is the area delimited by the performance within the 5 maqasid sharia model. So we'll have in this numerical method, we'll have the area calculus of each graph to benchmark years and even corporates and organization in general. I will start explaining how I've done this calculus of areas. So, in fact, normally in front of me, we have 5 axes. So we have center point of the graph, which point 0. So we'll have later we have 5 triangles. So to calculate the whole graphic area, we should calculate the area of 5 triangles. For this, I will use this formula, which is the science formula to calculate triangle area. As I've said, we have 5 triangles. So for each triangle, we'll use this formula to calculate the area, and the sum of all this area of triangles will so by summing all this area, we'll have this formula. And also, I want to highlight that we can incorporate that doesn't want to have an equilibrate model. I mean, if corporate, for example, want to have more importance on wealth results, they may have weightage the strategic objective of wealth. For example, they may give more importance, for example, to weight of 2 for this objective and not for other objectives. So I found that this formula could be used for corporates and for organizations that they want to weight their axis. So we'll have, for each performance, we'll have weightage that may explain the importance of the objective of the company and of the organization. The same result, I will use it for the model 2 that I explained, which is the Abdelmajid Najjar, with the 8 objectives, and we'll have the same thing. So we'll have this. We'll have 8 axes. The plan will be divided on 8 axes. We'll have area calculus of this graph, and by using the same formula of Steiner's formula to calculate a triangle area, we'll have these performances, this global performance. The same result for a weighted axis. Now I found that this result is very interesting if we use it for conventional definitions such as sustainable development, which is defined as 3 objectives, which are economic, ecological, and social results, and we'll have in fact a triangle, but we can in this graph we can in the slides we cannot see the axis, but we'll have three axes, and for each summit of the triangle we have the performance and the result of each one, economic or social or ecological. And using my results for conventional definition, I found the same thing. So global performance for three objectives will be sinus 2/3 pi, and this the sum of product of each performance axis. The same thing if we'll have the same result if we weight each axis. I demonstrate also the global performance for many objectives, not only for 5 or 3 objectives, but even for n ethical objectives, which is the most important thing of this work. I mean, even if we don't want to work with مقاصد الشريعة result, we want to have ethical objectives, so a financial objective and others extra financial objective. We may use this result to benchmark using these formulas. The second method, the second numerical method, is statistical one. So we'll use, as simply as that, we'll use average and standard deviation. The average will give us the average of all of n PIs, so the n performances, and the standard deviation will highlight what we are seeing in, as I said, in Islam, the middle way, so to equilibrate between performances. So if we have a standard deviation around 0, so we've done our objective, which is equilibrate performances. Now, using the same graph, but only for three objectives. Here I work with the sustainable development, so we have the economic, ecological, social objectives, and for each vector we have the performance of each axis, and the sum vector give us the trend of the results of the corporate. Here, for example, we can conclude that the corporate is much more looking for economic and social results, but more social ones. And the ecological is not really more important for these corporates. So we can rate corporates based on these three methods. Now I will explain with a case study how we will rate corporates. I will use a scoring method from 1 to 5. 1 corresponds to the bad result, which is the performance when the performance unsatisfactory, and 2 when the performance did not consistently meet expectation, and there are improvements which are improvement are needed. 3rd, when performance consistently meet expectation, for the score of 4 when performance exceeded expectation, and 4 when we have the best result, so the performance far exceeded all expectation. I used also the Omar Shapra in the paper. I guess that you've read it. I have more complex matrix, but here I want to simplify, so I will use for only 5 criteria, and for each criteria it corresponds to one objective. So to fulfill the enrichment of a human self, we will judge it, we will measure this performance based on the criteria of family and social solidarity inside the corporate. To fulfill the enrichment of faith, so the criteria will be the fulfillment of the social, economic and political obligations. The enrichment of intellect will be how the corporate contribute to innovation and R&D. So I think that I will conclude by this mathematics, then I will explain. To fulfill the enrichment of posterity, how education is measured inside the corporate, and of course for the development of wealth, there are the financial results of company. In fact, education, for example, I will use R&D, research and development, inside corporates, which is highlight the innovation inside corporates, which prepare first the next generation, which prepare also the new products that may help the development of wealth, for example, and also that fulfill the most important, the intellect of employees. And this matrix may be used for employees, for all the society, I mean the responsibility of the corporate inside the society, and stakeholders, of course. I've done a performance assessment term sheet, which consists of having for each objective a criteria, and we'll ask the performance. We'll ask the corporate some questions to measure this performance, and then we will score. We score these objectives. Then we will rate each objective. It's the sample, really the sample one, so with only 5 criteria and 1 criteria for each objective. So to summarize, the best result based on this framework is having a score of 5 on each of the 5 objectives. So the average performance will be 5, the standard deviation will be 0, it's the target, and using my definition with equilibrate, with weightage, we have around per global performance around 59.44, and if we will use a rating method, for example, it will be AAA ethical rating. To conclude, I want to highlight some limits of this model. The first one is the dependence on the order. That's why I use Shapra model, because in Shapra model there is an explication of the interdependence between each objective. So between the first objective and the second one, that's why I used this model, and but only for. But in fact, for 3 objectives, I mean, for example, sustainable development, the order does not really interfere, because I think it's the more important. That's why I used the vectorial method only for this model. I mean, for 3 objectives, not more. And the second limit is choosing criteria. Here also I used criteria, but I think that in other research works I may work on the choice of relevant criteria which may measure performances. And to conclude, the conclusion is I want to highlight that this is a new way of thinking, a new way of measure performances. Actually, there are only framework for 3 objectives, which answer the question of sustainable development. We may find many rating methods, but this is the positive one is of this framework. It will be it will be for the use of more than 3 ethical objectives. And this framework, it may incite investment, so social responsible investment, corporate social responsibility investment. It may also incite investing in waqf, zakat, and even qard hasan, because I think that there are many corporates that are investing in such investment, but they not really consider it. I think that it's not really fair that some corporates invest in such ethical objective, but people do not recognize it. And even this framework may incite small middle businesses and SMEs, and may also incite environmental investment. So for me, I think this framework, I think that the market actually is more need more ethical results more than financial, because they are independent. They are dependent. So I think that this year, 2011, will be the key year of ethical investment. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and I welcome really your question, because this framework I will present it next March at Harvard University as a competitive advantage for the Islamic finance industry, not only for the Islamic finance industry. So I really welcome every question that may improve this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Well, it's time for questions, and I guess there are some. How should we begin?
It is up to you, Professor Pierre. If you want to start from your side, or we start from here, it is up to you.
Well, I think the best is to check the link by asking you to first ask your questions, please,
No
or
problem.
ask some, and then we'll ask ours.
Yes, we will start with Dr. Ali Nadawi, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very grateful for this presentation. I appreciate the theory of ethics as well as the values rendered by Mr. Husamuddin. It is apparent by glance upon article that the focal point is to emphasize ethics and their impact on economic transactions in Sharia. So in my opinion, it is most necessary to elucidate the relation between jurisprudence and ethics, which is not explicated in the article, by placing examples in study cases, because the whole system of business in Islamic Sharia is essentially supervised by the jurisprudence and its rules, though its dignity is to be linked and correlated with ethical fabrics. Otherwise, an ethical framework avoiding the maxims of jurisprudence is not fruitful. You have various examples as a corporate system in the jurisprudence is prevailed by the ethics of justice, where you can mention that the profit ratio is different from interest. My concluding observation is that the designing of a framework by graphical method is not adequate to illuminate the main approach and target of the article. Thank you.
Usem, would you like to answer every question in a row, or to be asked some questions? Okay, so maybe you could ask for some detail.
Sorry, but the question wasn't really so clear because there is a problem of sound. I may understand in Arabic, maybe it's clear in Arabic, but really the sound wasn't really clear. Sorry.
دكتور علي ممكن يتكلم عربي؟ دكتور علي عشان يفهم ما فهم السؤال.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أود أن أقول يا أخي الكريم أستاذ حسام الدين، أود أن أقول بأنك تناولت هذا الموضوع بشكل جيد. العنوان هذا فعلا مغرٍ ومفيد جدا من قضية الأخلاقيات هذه، لكن كان بودي أن تربط هذا الموضوع بالفقه الإسلامي وقضاياه. أما إعطاء توجيهات أن القضية هذه كلها أو التجارة أو الاستثمار كله مبناه على الأخلاقيات، هذا لا يكفي. لابد أن يكون هناك ارتباط وثيق بالأمثلة الواضحة الكاشفة عن هذه الحقيقة، بحيث لما تجي مثلا في قضية الشركات تبين بأن هناك عدلا قائما، بحيث لا يمكن أن يكون هناك تجاوز حقوق أحد العاقدين أحد الطرفين مثلا، لأن تعرف في نظام الشركات مبناه على العدل، وهناك يعني مبناه على الخسارة والأرباح، فرب المال هو الذي يتحمل خسارة رأس المال، ويكون هناك عدل وإنصاف بين الفريقين وبين أصحاب الشركات هؤلاء. أما قضية الربا واضحة، هناك ظلم واضح، ولو كانت هناك أمثلة كاشفة عن هذه الحقيقة بحيث تبين هذه الأخلاقيات والسلوكيات الناجعة لعلاج هذه المشكلات التي تفاقمت أخيرا في الأزمة المالية والتقلبات هذه، لكان مفيدا. شكرا لك.
شكرا.
Brother Hassan would like to answer or to continue the questioning. It's up to you.
I will answer later.
You will answer later on.
بسم الله.
Yeah. السؤال الثاني.
Can you hear me?
السلام عليكم. You hear me?
عليكم السلام. Yes.
Brother Hussam or Mr. Hussam, thank you very much. Your talk was very informative and very nice. I do congratulate you that you tried to link the Sharia to the current financial system. My name is Muhammad Bakhutma and I am a surgeon. You are an engineer and I am a surgeon. So now surgery and medicine and engineering now is actually failing economy. I think we'll do a better job than them, yeah? Now, my first question to you. Usually we do graphs for its power of predictive value. We draw graphs so we can predict the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, does your system carry this predictive value for the future or not? So that's a question that I would like to ask, because in it, I cannot see how can I predict. If they are not doing well in 2012, would they be able to do better in 2015 or 2016 or not? So the predictive value of this system. The second thing are very short comments which take only about 2 minutes. I have my reservation on some of your definitions, which I would suggest to you that when you go to Harvard or somewhere else, that we will have to make sure that our terms in Islam is fundamentally different from the translation or the best translation. I give you a few examples. You translated ethics as akhlaq, and that's a common translation. I think ethics is different from akhlaq, because the typical translation of akhlaq, I would say manners, not ethics, you see. And you said that the objectives of Sharia is the maqasid of Sharia. I would say that the maqasid of Sharia means missions of Sharia, not objectives. And you translated law as Sharia, and I think Sharia is rather a way of life rather than just a law. And this is important to say that in this system, in your system of evaluation, there is a very important missing value, which you cannot measure in Western way of life or on Western system. That is the niyyah. You see, all of maqasid Sharia depends on niyyah, or the devotion. Did you get my point, Yaqsa?
Yes.
Intention, if you would say the intention. In our system, or these maqasid depends very well on the intention in our measurement. This is really you cannot measure. So I think in conclusion I would say, it is an extremely courageous way to try to measure the Western financial system by an Islamic measurement. But at the same time, this is a dangerous way of approaching the method, because it is exactly like saying that the distance between Paris and Strasbourg is about 750 kilograms. You cannot measure distance by kilograms. Or you would say that we are having 2 meters of apples. You cannot say that. In my opinion, it would be very difficult to judge the performance of the Western system by a measurement of an Islamic system. For me, it is difficult to measure the performance, but I hope that you will be successful. But I cannot imagine how are you going to measure the performance of Western system with an Islamic tool. It would be rather difficult. The whole jurisprudence, Hanafi, Maliki, all of them have accepted the presence of non-Islamic financial system, and they invented a way to deal with it. No one before you tried to measure it, because if you want to measure something, you must have a value out of this measurement. I think we as Muslims measuring the performance of a financial Western system is of no value, neither to us nor to them. It's purely academical. These are my comments, but I hope that I added something or I raised some questions. Did you get my point? Yes. I can't see where is
I get it. I got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I congratulate Brother Samuddin Badwi for this nice presentation.
Please, could you be closer to the mic?
First of all, I congratulate Brother Samuddin Badwi for this nice presentation and interesting. As we have been reading and hearing about the Maqasid al-Sharia, but it is the first time when we are just observing it at graphical presentation. I just, since he asked to present suggestions for improvement of this write-up or this paper, I just suggest towards improving a few technical things. First of all, I think he must refer to the translation which he is using for ayat. even a person knows Arabic, but if it is less to the just simple knowledge of the Arabic, I think translation may not be good. Otherwise, a scientist will translate his own way, and a medical practitioner will translate Quran his own way, and so on. So I think Quran's translation, it is better to use a standard authentic translation. The one. Another thing is that while using the translation system, I think use the way Arabic is written, and not the way it is pronounced. Otherwise, there will be too many ways to write the Arabic text, Arabic names, because people are pronouncing the word in different way. An Indian pronounced in some other way, and a Persian pronounced some other way, and Malaysian pronounced some other way. So there will be different ways of writing Arabic words. So it is better to write the way it is written, and it is left to the reader to read as he likes. This is one thing. For example, just here, and that will provide the consistency. Even in your article, Al-Razi, it is written just as one word, and in other place it is written Al-Razi. So I think since it is written in Arabic as Al-Razi, right, it is Al-Razi is better. And last, but in my opinion, is very important thing is about the references. You have provided a large number of references, and they are very important and very knowledgeable and will benefit the reader to a great extent. But you just provide all the relevant bibliographical information about the references. Only giving the title or the writer or writer and title will not be enough. You must provide where the article is published, or page number and volume, etc. That is very important, especially for a research article. And thank you very much again.
Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع سنة واهتدى بهديه إلى يوم الدين. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Husamuddin for his attempt to try to present a model for measuring ethical performance. And I think the paper is dealing with three main, very big subjects. We do have ethics on one hand, we do have performance measurement on the other, and lastly we do have the maqasid. And I think these three issues are very, very big, and there is a lot of debate about them. If we take ethics and we try to measure how, for instance, ethical funds, ethical mutual organizations performing against the traditional or conventional, so we will see that the literature is giving us very blurred picture about is it the ethical organizations or entities are really adding more value or weak or less, and I think it's very important that to look into this aspect to enhance the...
You mean financial values?
No, add the values of financial and some other as well. There's a lot of literature on this. Last one, it was, I think I have read in 2005, trying to compare in financial sector about 103 UK, German and USA mutual funds with regard to conventional and ethical. With regard the performance in itself, I would suggest if it is if you do have time, to read an article by Bert Perrin, published in the American Journal of Evaluation in 1998, entitled Effective Use and Misuse of Performance Measurement. So in it, he discussed as well about the techniques used and how good or how bad we are using the measurement, and what tells us about the underpinning behind the performance measurement in itself. And lastly, with regard the maqasid, also it is very delicate subject, So I have reviewed the book of Omar Shapra, and I have some of his orders, because I don't think that reorder, it is the main issue. The main issue, what is the contribution to the maqasid itself? If you read the history of the maqasid, we do have the Shatibi, a milestone. Then in the recent times, we do have only Ibn Ashur, who have emphasized the special nature of the maqasid. He looked into for instance, in the financial matters, the maqasid khasa bil muamalat al-maliyya. But after Ibn Ashur, so really one will question what is the contribution of others in the field of maqasid in itself. So I have questioned the reorder of Omar Shapra, for instance. I don't think that it is that relevant in this sustainable development, and also probably because you have based your model on that, the problem is not the reorder, especially if we take into consideration when it comes to the weighting of the 5, then you put the standard deviation at 0. So if I do understand you, that it means that order is not important. But when we go to the literature of the maqasid, we found that order is very important. For instance, if there is a conflict between hifd al-nafs on one hand and hifd al-din on the other, which one will go first? So there is a very big debate. So when the scholars, they have listed these orders, these 5 things, at least as far as I know, with regard the two orders, the first one, the safeguarding faith and safeguarding the nafs, they said like there is an ijma'. My knowledge is very limited in Sharia, so please take it at a literal word. But I have read that at least the order of the two is like there is an ijma' or unanimous on that. So you've got my question, remark here. So I say, so I would be very, careful in trying to put in a model. I appreciate the effort, and it is very important to try to capture the latest, latest development in other fields of finance, performance, and others, and try to present Islamic concepts in an understandable way. But we need to go very deep in terms of grasping the understanding of the, as I said, the maqasid, the ethics, and their reality, why we are speaking about maqasid. And also, probably we will add another dimension, the mathematical modeling, because some they have questioned in the crisis, is it ethical to have an ethical modeling for the, to have mathematical modeling for the risks and some other very complicated issues which have turned the financial products into opaqueness and created more risks that were not seen, and it brought to us the terrible mess that we are in. So, lastly, I think it's very, very important that to have a very clear, clear and precise concept, the definition of your concepts. For instance, in page 2, you have defined Sharia in 2 contradictory manners, I think. Under the paragraph in your paper, Islam and ethics. You have provided a definition in Sharia in 1 paragraph, I think, which is contradictory to the other. So I think it is very important if you can enlist the terminologies that you have used, go to the main sources, not the secondary sources, in order to have, for instance, what is maqasid and why do we have maqasid, Sharia, what is it and what's on it. But I hope that you can improve on the paper, and I wish you well in the coming event at Harvard University. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bismillah. Je remercie frère Houssam.
I don't hear you, sorry. There's a problem of sound.
Allô? Houssam?
Oui, c'est bien.
Okay now. Okay now.
Merci à Razak.
Ok. Je remercie le frère Houssam d'avoir présenté ce papier. Je suis aussi à l'origine, je suis aussi ingénieur, donc je comprends un petit peu votre approche, mais ce que je veux dire, il faut faire attention parce qu'il faut essayer d'utiliser l'outil mathématique avec mesure. Parce que je vais diviser mon intervention en deux parties. La première, elle est plus d'ordre épistémologique parce que lorsque vous faites dans votre introduction, non, il y a un des intervenants, il dit qu'il ne comprend pas. هذه الطريقة يعني أنا أدفعك لتفهم فرنسية. أنا Ok. Lorsque vous, à partir du moment où vous avez essayé d'introduire donc le concept de la maqasid à partir de Chandler, à mon avis, en fait, le débat est beaucoup plus ancien. En fait, si on revient au philosophe grec, en fait, et Socrate a évoqué en fait cette question à travers le concept de téléologie. Théologie, c'est un mot grec en fait qui signifie donc discours ou étude en fait des fins. Ce qui est paradoxal en fait, lorsque j'étais en train de vous lire en fait, dans votre, je dirais, référent, vous êtes plus proche en fait des philosophes grecs, mais lorsque vous commencez en fait à formaliser en fait, vous vous retrouvez plus en fait dans l'approche en fait ce qu'on appelle théonomie. Donc la théonomie en fait c'est un autre concept qui évoque en fait l'étude des fins, mais en termes de performance. Donc là, il y a en fait matière à préciser votre positionnement en fait épistémologique, parce que donc après du point de vue pratique, lorsque les scholars ont évoqué en fait les finalités, en fait c'était à travers ça il y avait une idée en fait qui consiste à dire qu'il y a des priorités en fait, qu'il y a des priorités, mais d'un point de vue pratique en fait ces finalités elles sont interdépendantes, donc il est difficile du point de vue pratique de les séparer en variables et de les pondérer et de dire voilà. Donc à mon avis en fait l'idée en soi est bonne, l'exercice est instructif, mais j'ai des réserves en fait parce que du point de vue pratique, il est très très difficile de séparer en fait ces priorités. Donc j'aimerais bien avoir votre réponse donc, voilà, là-dessus. Ok, merci.
barakallahu feek. Well, thank you very much. Maybe we can give Usam some time to answer the many questions that has been asked so far. Don't you agree?
Yes. But I think that many remarks are more than questions. So first, I want to thank you for these valuable advices and very valuable remarks. Certainly, I will try to adjust such epistemological terms and even also the use of translation. For example, ethics, akhlaq, and mission, objectives. I will try to work more on this translation and these concepts. Also, I will try also to work on the references as you mentioned it. Now I will try to answer these questions. The first one, it's true. It's related to fiqh. When we talk about justice, for example, when we talk about such valuable, they are in the contract. But I think that if we, in fact, for me, it's just an attempt to the not only let's say for the Islamic and finance industry, it's an attempt to have more responsible investment and investment. So ethics. I think that it's like the question between Sharia compliant and the Sharia based. So the compliance are in the contracts. So there is really justice, adl in the contracts, but we can look for such ethical values in other transactions. The second question is about performances. It's true, in fact, when we talk about a performance, we should first talk about the prediction. What is the performance that we are looking for? That's why in my scoring method, it's based on this prediction. So, for example, the best result it will for the 5. The results are depends on the prediction of the result. And it's true. I say that it's an attempt because it's not really easy to try to qualify something which is to quantify something which is about quality. So it's really a trial to quantify something. Talks about ethics and the quality. So it's true the question of niyyah also. It depends on niyyah. And I want to highlight also the fact that this model cannot be used for non-Islamic markets. I remember that Islamic finance in general, it maybe are for Muslim and non-Muslim. So when we talk about Sharia compliance, I mean the 5 criteria to justify that investment is Sharia compliant. So it's for all markets, Islamic and non-Islamic. So I think maybe even if it's not valuable for or not, it's not possible for non-Islamic markets. But maybe if we should start using it within our markets and our countries, and maybe it will incite us to have this vision of our basics. When, in fact, when I will be back to the question of translation of maqasid to objective. Really, for me, when when we talked about maqasid, for me, the skeleton is the infrastructure on which we may construct, we can build something. So I think that if we, for the Islamic finance industry, only for the Islamic finance industry, if we can work only on the, if we can find this framework on another one that may be used or may be based on the maqasid sharia, I think that will help us to find more responsible investment. And there are many questions also. I'm sorry if I didn't answer the other question, but I tried for the next ones to answer each question alone.
We would like to...
Maybe we have questions here in Paris.
Yes.
Yes, if you please, I would like to take a set of questions from here. First, I must confess, I was very much challenged by the epistemological questions, such as the question of Abdurazak, or the question by the gentleman with an engineering background or training, especially the emphasis on the importance of intention in Islam. Because when I read the paper by Hussein, my first reaction to the paper was to rush it into action, because I think it's the framework that needs to be implemented. And as Abdurazak has shown by referring to categories of ethical philosophy, there might be a divergence among you and us about the way we conceive final moral principles. Maybe you are most concerned with intentions, while we are more concerned with results. But that's why, debating together is fruitful, because we don't have the same focus. And so I must insist here that implementation of such a framework has already been done by two Malaysian scholars, Mustafa and Taib, but the general framework was simpler. And I think as the framework by Hussein is richer, it is really precious to have it implemented. And we can, as long as we decide to remove the ambiguities which still hinders the implementation, we could quickly do a report on the Islamic corporate social responsibility according to these indexes of Islamic banks, for instance. We could do it, but it would be rather, I guess, a sampler or a teaser, because as the gentleman with the engineering background has shown, when what we are looking for is intention and not just results, maybe the available indexes or data is not entirely satisfying. And maybe in the end, the reporting process implemented from Hussein's principle should be reviewed or approved by a Sharia board which would approve that reporting procedure. But I guess doing a first implementation would be very precious, just to point out at what needs to be done. What needs to be done, especially what kind of information should be disclosed by firms who want to have their corporate social responsibility assessed from an Islamic point of view. Hence, I think it's very important to rush to implementation, to rush into action, just to make it possible not just to think about principles, but also about what should be done. Hence, the question about the predictive value of the system should be answered this way. Of course, the system is not predictive at the moment, but it's a way to show what ought to be done. Then I'm asking the floor for questions.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, Ali from Paris. I would like first to thank Hussam for this paper. I think it's very, it may seem to be natural from an engineer to introduce such a model, mathematical model, but the link between ethical measurement, intuitive thing to do. The first intellectual and economics to introduce ethics in economy was Amartya Sen a couple of years ago, the Nobel Prize winner. But I think what you have done is interesting from the intellectual aspect, but I hope that in the future it will be implemented and you're on your way. I would like first to have a follow-up, it's a question, but it's a follow-up comment on one of the questions that were asked in Jeddah about the ponderation of the objectives or the missions, as has been said, of Maqasid Sharia. One of the examples, or counter examples we can take is that if you take two companies that have the same score, these two companies, one of them can have more emphasis into wealth and the other one into R&D or education or training, but they will have the same score. But one is doing more, is focusing more on wealth. So the same score, but difference in terms of the orientation. So I guess the idea of introducing a ponderation could be very helpful. This is the first remark. The other one, you introduced a global formula about the global performance, and you had this sinus of 2p divided by n. It's more like a technical question, but I think you're getting my point, is that how did you go from having a score or formula for 1 or 6 performances or objectives or missions to n? It's more like a technical question, but if you could just have some key points regarding this question would be great. The final question that in terms of the implementation, how would a company, let's take a simple concrete example, a company that has a balance sheet with a couple of investments, this company may think that investing in ijara rather than musharaka is ethical. They would say, okay, we're providing social housing, we're talking about social housing before, and they may think that it's a good thing, and it's fulfilling the objective and mission of Sharia, while from other standpoint, you may think that it's musharaka. So the evaluation itself is very subjective. Do you have any sort of nutshell criteria as how can I assign my score to each poste du bilan, each part of the balance sheet? Because in terms of implementation, this is the level of details that we could be talking about. And how would you go from, because if you assign 3 to a typical investment, it's very subjective. Do you have any sort of nutshell details? How can I assign my score to different parts of my balance sheet? The other last remark that I have concerns it's more like a comment about what has been said before in terms of how can I go from having a model that's based on what is thought to be ethical or not from the Islamic point of view and implement it in Europe or the West. It's a real issue. But if we look at what defines Islamic finance, it's the niyyah, the intention, the missions or objectives, the finalities of Sharia, but it's also the legal framework. Other than this, it's technical implementation. But if we take the first one, I agree with the gentleman in Jeddah, we cannot measure the intention, it's impossible. The legal framework is there, it's known, it is not an issue. But in terms of the objectives and finalities and missions of the Sharia, everybody agrees on this. I mean, every philosopher, every Christians, Jews, everybody agrees on this. So we can define the scope of our implementation and get it transposed in Europe, in non-Islamic financial institutions. That could be done. But again, we need to define the scope, but it's also very subjective. What I think to be ethical may not be thought to be the same thing by people that do not agree with me on this. I don't know if you get my point. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it. I have another question, but I think we can talk about it offline if you want. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Kader. I am PhD candidate in Islamic finance. Well, Sam, thank you very much for your presentation, because I think it's your model. You're opening a new door about how to rate companies and institutions in the market. It's a good thing. But the problem, you're at the same time opening huge issues that you're facing, and it's not easy to solve all those problems. Then, so for example, in Jeddah, the criteria, the weight that you have to put between different criteria. Yeah, it's the same. It has been said. It's very important. If you cannot solve this problem, it can be different. That perhaps you can put some coefficients in front of each criteria. In this case, it can be a beginning. The second point is about which, you have taken a strategic Sharia objective, for example, and inside it you put many criteria. Sometimes you put one or many. That is an issue, because if you refer to Sharia, which criteria we can put under which objective? And you have some objectives at the level of the state. For example, protection of human being. We can divide it in two. One part is a responsibility of the state, and another is responsibility of the company. Sometimes, if the company is involved in toxic production, for example, in chemistry, that it's difficult to, but it's possible. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to take into account. And the last point, we have to be very cautious about those models and limit their action, because it may be sometimes dangerous. Because if you are rating a company and saying it's very good, very well, but you are not catching the intention, because if 5 years later you have some clause in the contract, like for example, it happens every day in the market. For example, the owner will under some conditions, legal conditions, he will sell the company, and he sell to someone who didn't care about all these criteria. Then 5 years you're saying to the market and giving a signal is very nice, and 5 years later you have a legal risk. It's that Dr. Ali Al-Nadawi has told about this point is very, very important. Allah, thank you very much.
I tried to answer this question before having others, because I've made the mistake with the Jeddah, and I've forgotten some questions. In fact, I will be back to one question from Jeddah. By using references, in fact, it's true that sometimes I used academic. I mean, Omar Shabra, but I didn't go to the source. I mean, Shatibi or Ibn Ashur. I try to have such academic, not really religious references, but maybe I will correct it by mention the source or the real source of such definitions. So for the first question of Ali, how did I find the general with n objectives? In fact, it's mathematical method in France, raisonnement par récurrence. So I did it with n equal to 3, then n. So then I demonstrate that I can do it for n. The second question is, and even the questions of Abdelkader, they are really close because you asked me about criteria. In this paper, it was really an attempt. I've talked with Pierre Charles, and I've tried to choose some criteria, but I think there are many other papers that should be done based on this framework. That's why I've chosen the name, the title of the paper, Performance Measurement Framework, because really I want to. It will be the opening before choosing the criteria. Then, sure, in other papers and other works, I will work on on the criteria. Which criteria should I use for which objective? And for there is a question also of the coefficient of some criteria. In fact, based on what I've understood from Omar Shabra's work, in fact, as you said, there are some criteria that are shared with many objectives. So we can find one criteria in the human self, other in faith, and such as, for example, education. If I appreciate this example because corporates recruit people, but they didn't contribute of the education and of these new hires. So if we rate corporates, how did they contribute to the national education? So this will improve the educational system. Even there will be a link between the education and the corporates. And the education, it's for we can put it in posterity and for next generation, for intellect and even human self. And even in my research paper, I tried to find some coefficient, and for example, I put for intellect 50%, and for two others I put 25%. So it's really trial, but I think really for next works I will work more on the choice of this criteria.
We can't hear the questions. Please say it again.
So I was just thanking Hussam for his stimulating presentation, and I said it's stimulating given the number of interesting questions that have been raised in the two parts. During the course of discussion, somebody has mentioned that it's important to rush this model for implementation. And to me, it would be interesting to know if Hussam has sought to test this model empirically, because it would be interesting to know what would be the robustness of this model. Because you have many stakeholders. You have governments, you have taxmen, you have the International Monetary Fund, you have shareholders, you have clients, you have society, and every part of these stakeholders have their own objectives, have their own interpretation of things and facts. And when you test this model, you will have conflicting views, and everybody from his side will try to knock down your model. And it is not very easy to bring it to implementation. My question is very simple. Have you done that, and how you intend to do it? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In fact, I'd like also to thank you for your course last year. I was your student last year. I didn't implement this model since what it was raised right now is I should choose the criteria to implement such framework. So for me, it's just the basics. Then I will build to implement this framework. First, second. In fact, the rating will be based on all stakeholders. So, I mean, we'll try to rate and score on the shareholders' point of view, society, and all stakeholders. So, in the annual report, we not only have the financial results, but we have the whole and big report with all results on all these points for each stakeholders.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Jadal Bashir. Thank you, Hassan, for your presentation. I find it really very interesting, and I wish you good luck for your participation in Harvard. Only short remarks. I want to focus on your scoring methods. It was based on the contents of book of Mr. Shah, and I don't know why I find it basic. Regardless of the content of this book, you are an engineer, you have mathematical knowledge, scientific skills. Why didn't you try to develop a scoring which can be more in adequation of the criteria that you choose? I think that you can develop another score, parametric, non-parametric, DAA methods, etc. They are very methods, and I think it will make your scoring system, your ratings notes more powerful. It's only my... Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In fact, the scoring method from 1 to 5, it was just a case study to explain how the framework will work. And as I said before, it will depend on the criteria that I will choose. And I've thought also about work that depends on parametric performance. So I think that since there are interdependence between objectives, so certainly there are I want to implement, inshallah, parameters that may. It's true, it will be more complicated, but that's why I used a simple method just to explain the framework from 1 to 5. Thank you for your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Ali Seguir, so student in Paris Dauphine, and I'm working in compliance in a French bank. I just have a question on this model. Don't you afraid that this model cancels the responsibility of people? It means the responsibility of management, that the management will only focus on this model, and the responsibility of customers. So everybody will think that your model, if it's rated, for example, A or something like this, will just focus on this, but will not see anything else. For instance, I know that for Basel II, for example, if you have some criteria, banks will just focus on these criteria and will not see anything else.
Okay. In fact, as I said, the annual report, we will have all the ratios, the financial ratios, and we have also this. It's the add. In fact, it's the, something that we'll add. It's not. We will not replace what we have actually in the industry. That this rating will. In fact, we'll have this regulation, Basel, and all the financial ratios. But this rating is, we can see it as, for a corporate, we have credit a credit rating and an ethical rating. So then investors and shareholders will choose which corporate to invest or to work with. So to answer your question, it will be something that will add. It will not replace that something that will add to the report. Maybe we back to Jeddah if there are any questions.
Okay, Hussam, Dr. Abdullah, please. Well, thank you, Hussam, for your nice paper. I read it this morning. It's very interesting, in fact. My understanding is that your table at the end of the paper is maybe the most important part, because you are having 5 what you call objectives or strategic objectives, 5 maqasid, and then you translate it into criteria. The future of your paper, I think, depends on this development, that you make the right set of criteria that measure the 5 maqasids. In addition, of course, to scoring, so the criteria you are presenting has multi-dimensional parts need to be taken care of. One of the respected brothers in Paris, they mentioned the stakeholders who are responsible of implementing that criteria. Is it the company or the government or somebody else? In addition to the criteria itself, another dimension is are we going to preserve a specific level, or are we going to improve the status quo? There is also another dimension that we need, or maybe you need to look at it. Another request for you is the performance measurements. You don't have something about the previous studies with respect to performance measurement, and then you measure your to measure your paper to it. What is your added value here with respect to the previous work with respect to performance measurement? Thank you.
The second question, please.
Second question, maybe it's more than it's a comment. Your study does not have anything about literature review or review of the literature with respect to measurement of performance. Is there any measurement of performance in the traditional financial sector, for example? If you present that and then you compare as if you are presenting an alternative measure of performance. So there is no review of the literature. Shukran.
Hussam, I have a question here for you. It is actually...
May I just answer these questions?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Barakallah. The first question is about the table, and by the end of the paper, it was really a trial to translate what I found in the Omar Shapra paper, the Islamic vision of development, the light of Maqasid al-Sharia, and it was trial, but I will take into account all these comments to improve them, and it was really subjective. As I said, for example, when I've chosen education of 50% for intellect, it was really personal, and this is what I've understood. The second question is about convention. I think if I understood the question, it's about what we found here right now in the conventional. In fact, the conventional, we found such criteria. That's why I think that next works will be based on the benchmark and the comparison between this framework and other models where we found which criteria have been chosen to rate such ethical objectives. And as I said, Pierre Charles, that the add value of this framework is that we have a more general framework. We not, because what we found here in the conventional is only 3 objectives: economic, social, and ecological, which is the global, which is known as the global performance of sustainable development. We found this definition even in the United Nations website. So this is what we found, what we find in the conventional. I think that it's a challenging work for next papers to compare what is to compare criteria chosen in the conventional and what we will implement for my I think my Islamic framework. Thank you for it.
So, yes, Hussam-Din, I meant by review of the literature, the technical part of your presentation, the diagram and the equation and the mathematical presentation. Is it similar? Is there any other previous work in the literature to measure performance using whatever you used? If not, then what they usually use? I'm speaking about. I haven't seen They have of course there are a system in the traditional sector or the traditional system to measure performance, whether using graphs or using mathematics. So I would like to know that in order to see your adding value.
Okay, for the adding value, in fact, is that is really the starting point of the adding value is the graphical presentation. In fact, I've looked on different presentations and benchmark ethical ratings, and I've never found this graphical representation. And since my the measure of performance was based on this graphic presentation, I think this is the add value, since I think that nobody did such a thing, such a measurement of performance. I hope that I've answered your question.
Brother Hussam, this is Ibrahim Abul Ila from Jeddah. My question, it is not actually a question, it is a comment. I noticed that when you were presenting the paper, you were coming to the graphs and you were saying that these are very difficult to explain, or they are very difficult to elaborate on. If you are going for Harvard and you would like to present this paper for a prize, I suggest to you that you take off whatever graphs or materials that you think you are not happy with. This will give you much more opportunities in competing in Harvard. Number 2, I would like to give you a very good piece of news that we are going to invite Professor Shabra. He is going to give us a seminar in next time, and it will be about Maqasid al-Sharia. And he will comment on you in the paper. We have sent him your paper to Professor Shabra. He will comment in what he thinks was suitable or not suitable for the technician part that you have dealt with. But let me congratulate you. Actually, here we in the Islamic Economic Institute in Jeddah, we are feeling that we are starting a new horizon. You are starting a new work. Of course, in the States they say garbage in, garbage out. You are just starting the issue now. You will get a lot of critiques, I'm very sure, and that is very normal. But I think with more and more presentations, with more and more discussions, you will have much. You can develop a much better model that you have now. And we here in Jeddah actually wish you the best luck and wish that you get the very good presentation in Harvard.
Thank you, Barakallahu Fik. In fact, I thank you also for such good news. In fact, when I heard that Dr. Amar Shapra will evaluate my comprehension of his paper and the implementation, especially since I was based on his work, really, it's alhamdulillah, it's a very good news. And I want also to thank you for your valuable comments that I hope that will help me to improve this work to be published first, then to be really will add a value at next March at Harvard University, inshallah. Thank you.
Brother Karim, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam.
Firstly, let me add something to what Professor Baird has just said. That here we are just concerned with intention and there's value. Is this bit audible now?
No, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add one comment on the Professor Baird's comment that here it is intention which is important and there the results. But here it is not just intention, even the mean towards the result is also important. You have to go through the halal process, the legal framework. So it's not just intention plus mean, and then we go for the results. This is the first one. To me, your paper, you're trying to measure the immeasurable, frankly speaking. You're trying to measure the immeasurable. Something which you cannot measure.
Exactly. That's what I've said. In fact, it's something which is about quality. So I've tried to have framework to quantify something about quality. It's next works will be. I will try to not to be subjective. So try criteria that to measure performance that will be more objective. I agree with you that
did not explain, I mean, even if you are taking your formulas, you did not explain how do you get P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. What they represent you have explained, but how do you get there? Is faith, I mean, for my understanding of Islam, faith you have to be 100%. You cannot be a percentage less than that. You cannot accept some and you can reject some. From theoretical, I mean, if you go for it, I mean, these are very controversial things on which you'll be entering and which cannot be quantified. So how do you get P1, P2, P3, P4? And why can't we have a simpler formula of just having P1 plus P2 plus P3 plus P4 plus P5 divided by 5? Simple as that. Is that not possible? Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. In fact, such sum will have it in the average, since the second numerical method will have the average, the mean of the performances, so the sum over the number of objectives, and the standard deviation. So such numerical result is statistical one. So we already have this. The add value is to based on this representation, graphical representation, how we can calculate, how we can. For me, it's not the target. It's not really to calculate, but benchmark. In fact, how can we compare corporate from another on based on this ethical values for I want to also to add that really the question of having PI is not as simple as that. It will really depends on other works it will depend on the choice of criteria. I hope that I answered the question. I thank you for your comment.
According to you, Brother Hasham, of all these formulas, which is the best? all the formulas which you have presented, which one is the best according to you?
I'm sorry, but the sound is faint and we don't hear it, what you're saying, sir.
All the formulas which you have presented, of them, which one you think is the best one to evaluate?
For all the method, I think all are available. In fact, they are complementary. So I think if we'll have, for example, the same global, we may have the same global performance as I defined, but the graphics are different. But if we, for example, have a look on the standard deviation, we may understand that there is no balance, for example. So we may use the second numerical method. We may also use the mean. So even if we have the same global performance, but the mean, the average performance is different. So I think that our methods are complementary to have to rate an organization. I'm sorry, but the sound is really bad, so I didn't the question very well.
Well, I remind you that we are always open to written questions because, as you know, as Wissam will be presenting this paper or a modified version of the same paper in Harvard, he will greatly benefit from any written comment that will help better the paper and enhance it, of course. And this is to say that every research seminar is the place where work is in the making. We're not proposing an already accomplished work, but as you have seen, there is a lot of room for improvement. Now we are coming close to the scheduled end of the seminar, so I may ask whether there is a very last question for a quick answer.
From our our engineer here.
No,
sorry, medical
surgeon.
I'm a surgeon.
I'm a surgeon. Sam, I get your point here that you are looking for to invest.
I'm saying I'm a surgeon. I'm a medical person, not an engineer. Let me give you a suggestion, Hussam. If you are trying to find an investment in ethics, practically speaking, let me give you a suggestion. If you can give us a table, for me as a user, as a man, give me a table of content for all the banks in the world, and give me three things, three parameters, each parameter between 0 and 1. Okay? The parameter number 1, vice, virtue, and practice. The vice that I want to avoid in any financial institution, especially banks, is greed. The virtue that I want it in any investor is truth. And the practice that I want to avoid is riba. Did you get my point? Hassan, did you hear me?
Not really, in fact. I
now, do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you, but yeah.
I want a parameter, three parameters. If you want to measure the performance of any financial Muslim, from my point of view as Muslim, okay, yes, that this system must contain three parameters. One virtue, which one good thing, one vice, which is one bad thing, and one practice. The one virtue that I want it to be in any financial system, that the bank are not greed. Okay? The one virtue that I want it in any investor is to be truthful. And the one thing that I want to avoid in any financial institution is riba. Your talk has told me and convinced me more about my Sharia, that the financial system is very complex. For me as an ordinary man, the only thing that I have to avoid is riba. If you can give me a list by the name of the banks in the whole world,
which one of them is more in riba, more out of it, and you publish it in a paper and sell it, it will be sold like hot potatoes. If you are looking for investment. You see what I mean? Because the only one thing that I want to avoid as a person, as a normal person, is to avoid riba. I want the investor to be truthful, not to lie to me. And I want the bank not to be greedy. These are the things that you really need to measure, and you make us benefit from us as the money holder. Anyway, your talk was excellent, and I think your work was very courageous, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much, Hussam.
Thank you. Thank you. Barakallahu feek. Indeed, the third point is really what we have right now. So the Sharia compliance industry. So if there is riba or not. And the two first, it's really this is what I'm trying to look for. So if there is a grid, so if the institution is looking more on financial, and is it really greedy and not looking for other subject. And the second one, it's one of the objects that I have highlighted even from Quran also, truthful. I think it's haqq. It will be enriched, inshallah, from to try to find how can we have such measure of. It's not really measure. How can we assess this value? Thank you very much for this comment.
Well, thank you for being with us today, friends from the Islamic Economics Institute of the King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah. Thanks for attending the conference, friends from Paris. We are looking forward for the next seminar, which will be held from Jeddah. We are looking forward, Hussam, for the publication of the work in progress, with the support of the chair, of your friends, and yes, and the written question which we will need to enhance the paper. I think we'll have done today our part. Thank you very much. Goodbye.